Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with Nicholas Hasty, who is much better known as Soul Glitch. He has just released a fantastic new track. It is called Need to Stay, and I'm super excited to talk to him all about it. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today? What's going on?
Uh, I'm great, Austin. Thank you so much for having me on this interview. Yeah, I'm just it's still kind of in the morning here in California, so I'm just
Yep,
my day's just getting started, and yeah, I'm just set up my equipment after a gig this weekend, and
beautiful.
yeah,
Where in California are you? I knew that you were in California, but where
yeah, I'm in
exactly?
the San Francisco Bay Area, kind of in the East Bay.
Nice. Okay, what's going
Yeah,
on up there? What's happening?
it's been pretty hot.
Yes, down here in LA, it is blazing hot. It's super
Oh, geez, yeah, I'm
uncomfortable
sure it's really hot out.
just to be living as a human. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy times.
Nice. I'm headed up there in a couple weeks actually for Outside Lands Festival. So
Oh, I love
looking,
Outside Lands.
yeah,
I've been there a handful of times. I
yeah,
love it.
looking, and one day you will play it because your music is perfect for it.
Oh, let's
Wait,
hope so. That would be great.
cross my fingers.
Yeah.
You've got this new song out, and like I mentioned before we start recording, it's awesome. It's really got so many different elements and styles going on, but it's very much you. Like, I've reviewed your music over the years, and it feels like an evolution of what you've made so far, which is, I think, the goal for any artist.
Oh,
One,
cool. Thank you so
yeah,
much. I
you're
appreciate that.
welcome. But what I really want to kick this off with is like, what is it about and what inspired it? How did it get started?
So, Need to Stay is, I guess it kind of comes from this feeling of right now, different injustices, seeing just kind of looking out at things that maybe not might not be me personally, but seeing kind of the struggle that is going on as in our society, in our entire world, kind of looking at that and wanting to avoid this, the I guess wanting to avoid the kind of we want to avoid these things, and
Yeah.
so Need to Stay is kind of, I guess, my way of expressing that I see all this stuff happening, but I still feel compelled to stay and
Sure.
compelled to stand up for what's right, what is, what is, how can I contribute to, society in a positive way rather than just kind of checking out and, doing all the things that we do to pretend that the problems aren't there.
I respect it 100%. It feels like the world that we're living in is just getting even crazier than it was. And I do feel that overwhelming feeling of like, what's the point anymore? But this music kind of gives you hope and like they're optimistic lyrics, and obviously you've thought into it enough to create a song about, the problems and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, it's open and honest and vulnerable, which is all you can hope from music, truly. um Another thing that I'm loving about this is like, obviously you're a solo artist, but there's so much happening in the song you'd think that there's a 10-piece band playing behind you, which is, I mean, that's impressive in its own right. I kind of want to get into like, how are you making this music? Like, you give an idea right behind you, but like, how does it look in the studio, or just, yeah, just generally making your music?
Yeah, so I mean, I produce everything on Ableton, with
Yeah,
Ableton Live, and it always starts out with a very simple idea, just maybe a few chord changes or some loops
yeah,
and some simple beats. And once I get a structure for the song that I like and kind of like the right sections of the song, then I'll kind of go ahead and like start with the lyrics. I mean, sometimes I'll just think of lyrics and then I have to quickly find some chord changes, but
of
I
course.
do my best to get the lyrics pretty much written as quick as possible and as solid as I can, and then I kind of dive deeper into production,
Yeah,
um, and I usually, so, and I don't know, every song is a little bit different, but in this case, in this song, the horns really got added like pretty much after a lot of the production was done.
really.
Um, So like the original version, I just kind of had, I mean, I really just had kind of empty space in between like the first chorus and the second verse. And I was thinking about maybe just looping and glitching out my voice or something.
Sure.
But then I'm like, well, I have to do something. There needs to be like a bridge. And then I wrote kind of like a horn part for that. And then when I did the kind of like the final recording of everything, I decided to lay on some trumpet and baritone sax in
Sure.
addition to the tenor sax that I recorded on it, and tried to make it as kind of big and horn section
Right.
sounding as possible.
I mean, I've listened to the song probably 5 times already, but I can't imagine it without horns. Like it feels
Yeah.
like such a paramount. No, truly though, it feels like it's such a like a distinctive thing that flows through this song that makes it sound different, but also makes it pop at the same time. Like, don't get me wrong, it would still be good without it, but the horns just bring it to another level. Yeah, good idea for adding them back in.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, it would be crazy not to include, I mean, I've been a horn player for, probably 3/4 of my life at this point. That's
Sure.
one of the first things I really, that really got me into music. So, it'd feel crazy not to do horns on it.
Makes sense. I mean, yeah, if you've got the skill, do it. And it's easier than just like plugging in a patch and being like, well, I can find something to put in here that's horns. But the fact that you did it just makes it more special, and you can feel that. Um, it actually brings me to my next point because listening to your music, it's not just one thing. You really pull from so many styles and genres, and there's a little bit of everything for everyone. I want to know how are you explaining your music to people when people ask you like, "Hey, you make music, what is it?"
Yeah,
Because it's so much.
it's always it's the biggest struggle, to be
Yeah,
totally honest. It's almost a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it
yeah,
it is unique. It's a fusion of different things. I mean, the easiest way to describe my music is to say it's electropop. But that
sure.
doesn't but it still feels
It's
so
more
vague
than that. It
because
is.
yeah, it's I would almost say that my writing style is kind of I write lyrics and songs in the way that I feel a lot of pop artists will write music, kind
Okay.
of. So the lyrics themselves, but then when it comes to the production and the performance, it's much more of a fusion of
Yeah.
kind of electronic and live, um, you know, live looping and glitching, and that's what
Totally.
that when it comes to my live performance, I do the arrangement of the songs are quite a bit different because I like to do a lot of live manipulation and looping and
Sure.
glitching and kind of remixing of the performance live.
That makes sense. I mean, the greatest thing about your music is you could get away with no lyrics. Like you could just make these instrumentals and they would go off just as fine. But the fact that you have added lyrics into it and you've added more of yourself into it, it's more complex, I guess, and it gives you more to focus on. Like it has more of a replayability about it. The fact that it was like, okay, yeah, like the song itself was great, but now I want to know what it's talking about. Gives you a chance to go back and kind of experience a little bit more, which is really nice.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was going to save this for a little bit later, but you started talking about your live shows. So let's talk about that a little bit. First
Okay.
off, do you have anything coming up that you want to talk
Um,
about? Because, yeah, always want to plug.
I yeah, definitely. I don't have anything. There's one show that's coming in September. I want to say September 22nd, kind of like
Okay.
the third Friday in September. I'm not sure
Okay.
where it is. It's probably going to be in the East Bay. I'm going
Okay.
to play with another couple bands that I know in the Bay Area. Um, so, if anyone wants to, follow me, I'll definitely be announcing
Yeah.
stuff for that. Yeah,
Very cool.
and
And
I'm sure
then,
I'll
yeah,
have a lot of other stuff coming. I've been networking with
totally get it.
a lot of um, musicians in the Bay Area, and so there's a lot of I'm in communication with a lot of people, and we're trying to put shows together. So
Nice. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, your music is just built for a live setting, I can imagine. And I hope to be able to see it one day. Um,
awesome. Yeah,
but is it all originals? Do you throw any covers in there? I feel like you've got endless opportunities knowing that you play so much.
yeah. I do. I have released a number of covers, and I actually right after releasing Need to Stay, actually just this last Friday, I released a cover of Heat Waves by Glass Animals.
Right.
And so that just dropped on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. So
Very
that's out
cool.
there now too. And I'm working on a Harry Styles cover right now. Um,
Nice.
as it was, I'm doing like kind of a more, because that's kind of you know that song, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, can't have it
everybody
been
knows
able
that
to
song.
avoid it at this
So
point.
it's kind of like it's a really fast song.
Yeah,
So I've kind of managed to take it into more of a down tempo um, kind of place. I really like taking songs and I love these songs too. But taking them kind of in a much more, you know, a different direction that's reflective of the kind of the style that I do,
sure.
and
Well,
kind of
that's
putting a
yeah,
different spin on it.
that's my favorite part of a cover is like it's really easy to just make the same song over and over and over, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah,
people will enjoy that, but at the same time, taking a cover can be so special because you make it your own and you do your
yeah,
own thing with it and it shows off that it's like, well, this is a creative person that, we have similar love for the same music, but also he can do his own thing and then it stems them to listen to more of your original music. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to checking that out eventually when it releases.
Awesome.
Um, I want to talk a little bit more about your originals though, because
Okay.
it,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough to ask this question because your music already experiments so much. But down the line, is there plans to do more experimentation, try new things, try new avenues, go into different genres? Like, what is the plan, or is there a plan?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of different original songs that are kind of, I would say, a bit on the back burner. And,
Okay, got
so,
it.
I mean, or
Sure.
just ideas that I mean, the songs are written
Yeah,
and now it's all about flushing out the production, figuring out how I'm going to produce it. So I have a handful of songs and I'm kind of, at this point, I'm just trying to put out stuff on a regular basis, like every
sure.
six weeks or so, because I think that's really a good, that seems to be what's working for a lot of independent artists that aren't mega stars.
Yeah.
And but I'm also kind of I've been talking with different artists in the Bay Area about doing some collaborations.
Okay.
There's this artist in the East Bay called Ill Exotic, and
Okay.
I did a show with them. I did kind of like it was called Indie Mixtape, and it was like a bunch of, it's kind of like a songwriters in the round type show,
Nice.
and everybody had a chance to play a few different songs. So and they do electronic stuff, but they also do some cool like rap and hip hop stuff. So I'm excited to kind of explore into you know people maybe doing
Yeah.
some rapping on some songs and collaborating on different stuff like that.
Totally. Well, you blur
Yeah.
lines with the music that you make, and you could kind of put yourself into any genre and make it work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that your
Yeah.
music is hip hop, but at the same time, with your instrumentals, you could have someone rap over your music and it would sound great. So it kind of gives
Yeah.
you the
Yeah.
opportunity for collaborations, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit more on the process side of things and actually making this music. So you mentioned that you use Ableton, which I have used it in the past, and it's like speaking another language. Potentially one of the
Yeah.
most difficult, one of the most difficult things to use if you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you have any, I guess, like tips and tricks for someone that is just starting out and decides to use Ableton? Like, what's the path to success with that program?
Let's see. That's a really good question. Like what's something to start out? I mean, I guess it depends on like how trained you are in music, or like
Okay.
what you're like, because there's different ways to go. I feel like there's different ways to go at producing music. And I mean, when I started writing music, it was on a very simple MIDI program, like
Okay.
on my dad's like 486 computer back in like the the mid 90s or
Sure,
something.
sure.
So I started like programming MIDI music and having these cheesy sounding horns and violins, and I started on kind of like making classical band music.
Okay.
But then as I progressed through middle school and high school and started building my own computers and started getting into software. Like I remember I got a program called Techno Music Maker, and you literally just dragged like different samples and could like you do very simple editing stuff.
Sure, sure.
So I kind of have come to producing music from kind of two avenues. Like there's one avenue where it's like, okay, I'm playing chords, I'm writing chord changes, but then there's also like just using samples. And
Yeah, of
I try to fuse those two together in a way that, I have an understanding of music theory and,
course.
to a certain extent. I'm not like an expert in music theory, but I understand it enough to be like, okay, I can write these chord changes, I can do this stuff. But I think it depends on, because anyone can make, I see like this side of using samples and manipulating samples. It's an interesting side of music production because you see people now making music that maybe don't have, classical or jazz training or didn't
Oh,
take it in school or anything, but
such
they
a
can take.
small percentage of people. People just try to, no, really, I think you're one of the very few that actually kind of know what they're doing as far as theory goes. I think a lot of people wing it or just watch YouTube videos and try to figure it out.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, there's a lot you can do in Ableton. If you're feeling like, oh, I don't, if someone's feeling like they want to get into production and they don't, they maybe don't know how to play keyboard very well,
Hmm.
or they don't play an instrument or something. There's a lot you can do with just, getting samples, putting them
Yeah,
into Ableton and playing around with samples and manipulating the audio that way.
it's pretty cool.
And there's always tons of tutorials that people can, find on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great answer, truly, because I think a lot of people just kind of don't know what they're doing and they mess around and waste too much time. And it's like a YouTube video can help you, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like long term, you got to figure it out for yourself. So it's a bit complicated.
Yeah.
Um, I need to talk about your setup behind you because I can't stop looking at it. I'm,
That was my plan.
I'm obviously looking at you, but I can't stop looking at it. So maybe an impossible question, but what is the most important piece behind you? Like, what is the thing that you couldn't live without? I suppose.
So, I mean, this is a good question because there's no simple answer, but I
Yeah,
mean, of course, my saxophone is like
yeah,
the thing that, honestly, people connect with when I'm performing live.
yeah.
This is my flute. This thing over here, this is in a
The
an
hell is
Akai. This
that?
is an Akai Iwi. So this is basically you play it like a saxophone, but
Okay.
it's also a MIDI controller, so I can play virtual
Oh,
synths, and Ableton as a built-in synth. Um, and then I have, it might be hard to see it, but this is my keyboard, and I have different triggers on that to do
yeah.
things. And this is kind of like a pedal board where mostly my vocals go through a lot of this stuff. But the one thing that I probably couldn't live um, without, I mean, is the Chaos Pad. That's this thing right here.
Chaos
Um,
pad.
and this is like made by Korg. And what it allows you to do, I actually have both my vocals and my sax going through this thing. There's kind of like an XY pad on the top, and there's hundreds of different presets. And what it allows you to do is kind of manipulate the sound that's going through it, putting different like delays or glitching. It also has 4 sample banks, so I can basically sample myself, and it's all synced with Ableton. So, like whatever beats per
Yeah,
minute is going on, that thing's completely synced. So I can do a very, different lengths of loops
sure.
um, that are completely synced with Ableton. And then I can kind of remix those loops on the fly too. So I could like put down a vocal sample or a sax sample, and then kind of put some cool delay on it or glitch it, and
Sure.
then resample that to something else. And you could just do that infinitely, pretty much, just like kind of it, it's pretty
Unbelievable.
wild what you can do. You
I
could do,
yeah, sounds like
I
one
mean,
big science experiment. Pretty much.
and I've been using these. This is my second Chaos Pad because my first one, I like played it into the ground literally. But this thing I've literally done before this rendition of Soul Glitch. Like you know, kind of tried to do stuff that was a little more. I don't know. I've literally done shows with just this thing, doing like laying down
Oh,
a
okay.
beatbox thing, and then sampling with that. But one of the things that it allows me to do, because in my performance, I do as much seamless transitions between songs. Like I get to
Sure.
the end of the song, and sometimes I'll end with like a vocal sample, and then I can get Ableton to like maybe go, you know, wait a minute or two, and then go into the next song. I have a bunch of
Yeah,
triggers
of
that,
course.
basically I hit a foot pedal, and then that triggers the next scene in Ableton. So while in between songs, I could do a lot of stuff with the Chaos Pad that
Yeah,
kind of allows me to kind of seamlessly, almost like a DJ would, kind of
totally.
go from one song to the other, kind of in a fun, unique way.
It feels like the options are endless with that thing. I love
Oh
it.
yeah,
It's so
yeah,
cool.
definitely.
I have a couple more for you. I want to
Okay.
know, and I don't think there's a right answer here. There might be. Who is the single artist that's had the most profound effect on the music that you're making?
Oh, that is that's well, that's the one of the hardest questions I could be asked, because there's
Yeah.
so many. I have so many. Well, I want to say, probably the person that got me, the one artist that probably got me into, because when I was growing up, I played, like, kind of, I was in like band and played classical and jazz stuff.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
the saxophone player that has influenced me more than anyone is a man by the name of Michael Brecker. He was
Okay.
a pretty famous, like, jazz and funk saxophonist, um, and he's just a phenomenal saxophone player. But when I got into high school, I started listening to, it was like the very beginning of, like, kind of internet radio,
Okay.
and I started listening to different like internet radio stations, and I came across this artist known as BT.
Okay.
His name is Brian Transeau, I think that's his name, but
Got it.
his artist name is BT, and he's actually a prolific producer. He's produced for he produced for a lot of pop artists in
Sure.
the like late '90s and the 2000s, like Britney Spears and
Oh wow.
like NSYNC.
Sure. Sure.
So, but he's also just made tons of amazing electronic music that goes all over the place, from trance, drum and bass.
Sure.
He's scored movies too, so he's very much like one of those just very prolific producers that's just produced a lot of different amazing electronic music, and he's done a lot of, like, kind of glitching out of stuff too. That's one of
Sure.
the things I like about his music. There's just a lot of kind of cool audio manipulation.
Nice. I'll have to look them up. That's a great
Yeah,
great answer because I have no idea who that is, but
yeah.
now I do. Um, my last question for you here is basically for the person that is going to discover you from this, what is an opening message that you'd like to say to them before they listen to your music for the first time?
Before they listen to my music for the first time, that's like, I'm not sure what I'm not sure what to. I hope they enjoy something that's a bit out of the ordinary, and hopefully takes them on an audio journey, and while also can deliver like a message of positivity, equality, and self-reflection and uh I don't know what to say. So a lot of my songs are also kind of about, um kind of wanting to, just wanting to live a better life for yourself too. That's a
Sure,
lot
sure.
of what my message comes down to also.
Nice. I think that's a great answer, and I've heard them all.
Awesome.
Thank you. Well, hey, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. Please let me plug your music for you once again here. If you guys missed it, the artist is Soul Glitch. The song is a Need to Stay, but I also urge you to check out the rest of his music because it's awesome, and I sincerely and personally enjoy listening to it. Um, and we will have the links in our article so you can listen and share and follow along and do all that fun stuff. It sounds like there's so much more on the way. If you're in the Bay Area, check out a show. And yeah, hey, thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Austin. I had a really great time talking to you.
You're very welcome. All right. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day. stay cool out there because it's brutal.
Yeah, definitely.
And
You too.
yeah, for real. And I hope to speak soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Awesome. All
Austin.
right, take care.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
All right. Thanks. You too. Bye.